Welcome to I Am a Hebrew, learning biblical Hebrew through the book of Jonah. With me, your host, Rabbi Rafi Mallet, aka Everybody's Ready. This series is brought to you by the Seattle Kollel. If you'd like to make a donation, that's www.seattlekollel.com. Seattle Kollel spelled SeattleKollel.com. You could also visit my website, rabbirafimallet.com, spelled the same as my YouTube channel without any spaces, rabbirafimallet.com. And through my website, you'll have access to my different content as well as my social media links and a calendar where you can schedule time to study with me, talk to me, hang out with me, whatever you would like. Thank you so much for joining this evening. And now we're going to get on with the program. Last week, we did Jonah chapter 1, verse 1. We started our first class with the introduction to the series and a few of the grammar rules to begin decoding the first verse. And we finished that off last class with the entire first verse. We'd like to go on to the second verse tonight, and the links to there's a link to a Google Doc with the study resources that can be found in the description of this video on YouTube. Can also be found in the live chat as a pinned comment. In fact, what I should do right now is put that link also into the private chat for those who are with me in the virtual studio. If you would like to join me in the virtual studio, then send me an email at rabbirafimallet@gmail.com. Tell me you'd like to join the class, and I will send you a link next time. But I won't be checking my email during the class, so this time you'll have to suffice to watch on YouTube if you don't already have the link. Abigail Foster. Hi, all. Happy New Year. It's already lunchtime on New Year's Day here in Australia. Welcome, Abigail. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to everybody. Tim Flanagan. Hi, Rabbi. Thank you for taking time to teach us. I really appreciate it. You are welcome. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. On my screen is that Google Doc, which I shared the link to. Oh, let me get rid of that. Okay. And once again, I have the link to the worksheets where we're going to be translating the verse. We have the link to several Quizlet study sets for Shorashim, for vocabulary. We have our prefixes, and for this week, I've added suffixes, which we're going to encounter this evening, and our glossary, which has been updated to reflect the new elements of Hebrew that we're going to be encountering this evening. So let's go ahead to our worksheet. Now, the way you're going to do that, so you're going to get to this Google Doc. You're going to click on this link, open up the, you can open it up as a preview like this, or you can full screen it in this way. And according to Jacob, I should share this tab instead. Now, did that work? That worked. Hey, Jacob, thanks for the tip. Okay. So what I want you to do in this tab, once you get to the worksheet,
if you make it less wide, Rabbi, it'll actually get a little bit bigger because it's not fitting correctly. So
if
you
I
should make the window a little less wide.
How do I do that?
Is your window full screen? Take it out of full screen.
You want me to like do this?
Yes. See, it's getting bigger. Yeah.
Well, I'll only see it when I go back to this tab.
Yeah, it looks much better this way.
Okay, I mean, I was gonna just magnify it anyway, so it's not a big deal on my end. But once you get to this worksheet, what I want you to do is I want you to go to File and make a copy now. Yeah, you're gonna go to File and make a copy, and it'll be whatever. Now it's called Copy of Jonah Worksheets. You click Make a Copy, and your copy you'll be able to edit in your own copy. So let's make that copy. And I'm going to share this tab instead. Hey, it's my new trick. Okay, so now we're looking at the copy of Jonah worksheets. This is the verse we did last week. Vahi devar Hashem, and the word of Hashem was, this is all last week's class, so go back to that if you don't remember how we translated it. El Yonah ben Amitai, to Yonah, the son of Amitai, Lemor, saying. And the word of Hashem was to Yonah, the son of Amitai, saying, meaning God spoke to Yonah. And we get the next page over here, I have verse 2, which is considerably longer and more complicated than verse 1. And we'll do our best to decipher it this evening. And we're going to go ahead and edit this document. And hopefully you'll be able to edit it along with me. We have some other comments in the chat here. This sounds exciting. This is the third class. That's right. So you may need some of the fundamentals in the previous classes if you find this too difficult to follow along. So go back to the earlier classes in the series. They're all on my channel on a playlist, and then come back to this one when you're caught up. I think you could catch up even with class number 2. Okay. So before we go ahead and start working on this translation, any questions or comments from anyone in the class or the audience? Now's your chance. Oh, I was going to tell a story about Shalom. I was going to tell a story about this tie. This is my Solidarity with Israel tie. I saw a fellow in my synagogue wearing this tie, and I complimented him on it. And he said, anyone who tells me that they'll wear this tie, I will get them this tie. And I said, I will wear that tie. So true to his word, he got me the tie. So I said I would wear it. So I'm wearing it. And I think solidarity with Israel is very important right now. Rabbi Daniel Travis, who's a major Torah scholar, he has a number of publications. And he's, he is a prominent teacher in Israel, English speaker, also an author, Rabbi Daniel Travis. He recently put a message on his YouTube for B'nai Noach, as a matter of fact, because the B'nai Noach explosion is a real thing that's happening. There's a lot to talk about on that topic, and I know it's not the subject of my class, but he said he gets a lot of messages from B'nai Noach, from righteous non-Jews, and they ask him, what can I do, as a Ben Noach, what should I do to help Israel? And he said, really, when we see what we've seen after October 7th, there really is a very clear view of what is good and what is evil. And something that a Ben Noach could do, that every person really in the world needs to do right now, is to take a stand on the side of good against evil. Ideologically, it doesn't mean you have to volunteer for the army, but ideologically, to stand with Israel, to stand for what is good against what is evil. And that's not to say that everything that Israel does is perfect. That's not to say that everyone who lives in Israel is a saint, but that is to say that in this time, when we look at what does the Jewish people stand for and what does her enemies stand for, it's very clear which side is the righteous side in this battle and which is the side of evil. And one should make sure to align themselves accordingly. That's a very important thing to do right now. In any event, so let's go ahead and get on with the class. So the verse starts with the word kum. Now, kum, you see, I highlighted in yellow. Now, for those who've been following the series, who recalls, yellow is that's my signal that this is a what? These 3 letters are a go. Anyone? Giving you a chance. Yellow means a shoresh. Shoresh, as we said, is a root, a Hebrew root. So these 3 letters that spell the word kum are a Hebrew root. These were in the Quizlet set. Those of you who did your homework and practiced the Quizlet Shorashim should be able to tell me what kum means. So I'm going to give you a chance. Who studied? Who can show off? and show me that they studied. Tell
It
me what
means to rise up or get up.
to get up, to rise up. Excellent. So now, by the way, what I did here is I put some notes at the bottom. We'll get to these notes in its proper time. But I also put a link to the glossary at the bottom so we can quickly see a preview of the glossary, right? You're able to see that preview, right? So when we look at the preview of the glossary, we can see, I put it in alphabetical order. So kum is over here, means to arise, stand up, get up. So we're gonna translate this word. This is God's command. He's speaking. God is speaking now, as we saw in verse 1. He's speaking to Jonah, and he commands him. He says, "Get up." Right? Get up, or arise, if you will. Okay. What's next? Lech, another shoresh, but as we discussed before, there's only 2 letters here, even though a shoresh has 3 letters. And that was my first note here. Review of the concept of the Yonah letters. There are 4 letters in a shoresh that may typically disappear when the shoresh is used to form a word. And those are the letters Yud, Vav, Nun, Hey, also known as the Yonah letters. A Yonah, which ironically is the name of our book, the book of Jonah. Jonah means a dove in Hebrew. So the Yonah letters fly away like the dove. So sometimes they don't appear. So this shoresh, lech, which we have here, lech, is from the 3-letter shoresh, holach. So when you see a 2-letter shoresh, you have to just kind of fill in which letter is missing. It'll typically be one of these 4. Holach, hey lamed chaf, if you will. So who can tell me, who did their homework, this shoresh, hey lamed chaf, holach, means to do what? Anyone?
Doesn't halakha mean law?
I can't hear. Speak up.
Halakha, isn't that law?
Oh, very good. Excellent. So, Abigail, I see your comment. Go. So we're going to connect these 2. So my friend Stephen says halach is the root of the word halacha. Halacha means law, right? But the truth is that even though halacha is the word we use for law, halacha does not actually mean law. Halacha is from this root, which, as Abigail pointed out, means to go. And the reason halacha, law, is from that root is because halacha tells us how to go, how to step, how to walk, how to go about our daily behavior. How do we go? How do we behave? How do we act? What do we do? That's halacha, from this root, which means to go. So here, again, God is speaking to Jonah, and he commands him to get up and go. Go. And the next word here is El. Now, we had already El in verse 1, right? Vahi devar Hashem. And the word of Hashem was El Yonah ben Amitai. So who remembers for us what El is and can tell us?
Well, I normally see it as on, but it can also be to.
Okay, so I'm going to respond to what you're saying. El means to. That's correct. However, on is a different word, which we're also going to meet, which is al. Okay, and I'm going to show you the difference between these 2 words. We'll look at our glossary because they're both there.
Good.
So let's take a preview peek at our glossary, and you'll see. Just scroll over here. L over here. L is 2.
Gotcha.
And we also have al, which is where L is spelled aleph lamed. Al is spelled ayin lamed. And al means on or upon. So similar, they are prepositions, but one means to and one means on.
Right.
It is interesting to note that there are times when those words are used interchangeably, but those are rare occasions. So I'm right now limiting them to their typical meaning. Okay. So 2, get up, go to Nineveh. So I told you in my color code, purple is a name. So Nineveh, you're going to go to the city of Nineveh. Okay. Get up, go to Nineveh. Now, here's where it gets a little complicated. The next two words, Ha'ir Hagidolah. And we're going to tackle these one at a time. We have first Ha'ir. Now, remember, based on my color coding, the pink is a prefix, and the green is what I call a basic vocabulary word. Okay? So, for those, we did not see this prefix, the hey prefix, the ha prefix in the previous verse, but I did put it in the Quizlet set, and it is now in the glossary. For those who studied the prefixes between last week and this week, may be able to tell me what the hey prefix means. So I'll give you a chance. If somebody knows what the hey prefix means, you can say it now. What? Speak up. The. Very good. And we'll put that over here, because here we have the pink box, the corresponding pink box. Now, next comes ear. Ear is a new word. It is in the Quizlet practice set. It's also in the glossary. So if anyone knows ear, you can call out what it means.
City.
Who said that? Who
Town.
said city?
City.
Yeah, it is city. Who said city?
Hello.
I heard you, but I don't know who said it. Anyway, city is correct. Ear means city. It's in your glossary over there. So ear means city. So I have over here the green box corresponding to ear. Okay. The blank city. Now we have in Hebrew something different than English. In English, we typically will have the adjective before the noun. In Hebrew, it's the opposite. The adjective follows the noun. So if I just choose an arbitrary adjective like dark, okay? So in English, we say the dark city. Dark would come first. You wouldn't say the city dark. But in Hebrew, it's just the opposite. You say first the city, and then you describe the noun. So you would say the city dark. So that's what we have over here, is ha'ir, the city. And then we have the adjective, which is based on this shoresh, gimel, daled, lamed. The reason I don't have the vav highlighted is because it's a vowel, so it doesn't count as part of the shoresh. Gimel, daled, lamed is, anyone? It's in this Quizlet, and it's in your glossary. Anyone want to tell us what that is?
Great or large?
Great, large, big, very good. So let's go ahead and put that in over here. We'll just keep it simple. The big city, okay? The big city, the great city, if you like. There's somebody with a little bit of background noise, and I don't know if you hear a cat meowing in my background, but I have a very upset cat in my house, so he's making a lot of noise. That's me.
Excuse me, Rabbi. The hay that has the blue with the Hagadol.
Yeah.
What does that do to the Gadol?
Oh, great question. I'm glad you asked, and I was gonna go there. There's really two questions that pop up here, because I have the definite article hey in front of both the noun and the adjective. And then we're gonna see there's this suffix hey over here that I'm gonna talk about. The first thing I wanted to, so Ha'ir Hagadola means the big city, and you could see that from the and the city and then big, the big city. But still, what's left a little mysterious is what's with the two definite articles and this hey at the end. So what I could tell you is this. In Hebrew, when you have a noun with a definite article, like the city, and then you put an adjective after it, the adjective gets the definite article. It's so you wouldn't say ha'ir good if you said ha'ir gadola instead of ha'ir hagidola like it is here. If you would say ha'ir gadola, that would mean the city is big or the city is great. Ha'ir, the city, and the state of being verb is implied. Ha'ir, the city, is gadola, is big. But when I put the definite article in front of the adjective, ha'ir hagedola, the city, the big, it signifies to me that big is the description of the city, the big city. So it's, in other words, in a certain way, just like in English, you put the adjective after the definite article. You would say the big city. So here we also say the big. It just so happens that we say the city first. So it comes out, it looks like in English, like the city, the big. But again, you have to understand that in Hebrew, the adjective comes after the noun. And if the definite article, the, is being used, it comes before the adjective. Now, to be totally transparent with you, and I don't want to overwhelm you with information, very often the definite article won't appear in front of the noun. So if this hey wasn't here, and I had just said Ir Hagadola would also mean the big city. As long as the definite article is before the adjective, the big, that is, so to speak, also putting the definite article on the noun. So either Ir Hagadola or Ha'ir Hagadola is the big city. But again, you'll always have the definite article before the adjective following the noun in Hebrew. And that's what you're seeing over here. Ha'ir Hagadola, the big city. Okay. Now, Stephen asked about this hey at the end. So what, again, this is new, but I put into the glossary a set of suffixes, okay, because we're going to meet some suffixes. One of the suffixes we're going to meet, and this is the very first one, is the what's called the, I don't know what it's called, as what I call it, the kamatz hey. This vowel here, this vowel looks kind of like a T, right? That's called a kamatz, and it makes the in the Sephardic pronunciation an a sound, in the Ashkenazic pronunciation an sound, and followed by the hey. So the kamatz hey ending signifies, as it says here, that the word is female or feminine singular. That the word is feminine singular. So what that tells you, and again, this part will be a little bit confusing, but you'll bear with me, okay? Let's just see in the notes here. When a noun with the definite article, hey, the, is followed by an adjective, the definite article will also appear before the adjective. Now, I put also in parentheses because, like I said, sometimes it'll exclusively appear before the adjective and not before the noun, like Ir Hagadola instead of Ha'ir Hagadola. It means the same thing. It will always appear before the adjective if there's a definite article. Okay, it might not appear before the noun, but it will appear before the adjective. Still have my cough, but it's not as bad as last time. I'll cough less this week. Okay, so go to Nineveh, the big city, and what it's just pointing this out doesn't change the translation, because in English we don't have really masculine and feminine words in English, but in Hebrew, Gidola is a feminine adjective. The masculine would be gadol, because the masculine would not have this kamatz hey ending, the sound with a hey at the end, gidola. Okay, so and now why is the adjective feminine? The adjective, this is going to be a little confusing, but I have to be transparent with you. We're learning Hebrew now. I don't expect you to remember everything I'm going to say, but as we encounter this more and more, it'll start to sink in. This is not what I want you to focus on for this lesson. What I do want you to focus on is what I put in the notes here, that the definite article, that number one, first of all, the adjective follows the noun. And when there's a definite article, it will precede the adjective. Okay, so please remember that. That's what I want you to remember. What I'm going to tell you now is just a little bit of explanation of something somewhat complex. Don't worry about remembering it, but I'll just explain it. The adjective here is feminine because the noun is feminine. If you have a feminine noun, the adjective will also be feminine. If you have a masculine noun, the adjective will be masculine. If the noun is singular, like it is here, the adjective will be singular, like it is here. If the noun is plural, the adjective will be plural. The adjective will always match the noun in gender and number. Now, this word ear, I'm telling you it's feminine, and you're scratching your head because of the next thing that's in the notes. Feminine words will usually end with kamathe, like I just pointed out, that ending, kamathe, or will end with the letter taf. The letter taf is also an indication that at the end, if it ends with a taf or a kamatse, that this word is feminine. Usually, that's like as a rule. Here's an exception to the rule. The word ear. The word ear is feminine, even though it does not end with kamatse. And there are a handful of exceptions like this. This is one of them. Why is it an exception? I could give you a little bit of a deep spiritual explanation. Maybe I will. But bottom line is, ear is feminine. It's an exception to the rule. Normally, feminine words end with kamathe or tough. This one does not. And since ear is feminine, the adjective for big, gedolah, is written in the feminine. And that's what, Stephen, to answer your question, which I was going to talk about anyway, that's why you have a kamathe at the end. It signifies that this is a feminine adjective to match the feminine noun. Okay. Any questions on this before I continue with the verse? Yeah, a few people answered great for the Gadol, Gimel Dal Lamed, Shoresh. Great, big, that's right. Thank you, Sephardic one. Show my love and appreciation for my rabbi and friend, Big Bad Rabbi. It's great to have you. I always learn something new from the rabbi. That's the idea. That's the idea. We wanna teach, we want to learn. Okay, so what I read once in the commentary of the Ben Yehoyada, which is a commentary to the Agadic portions of the Talmud. That means like the more story portions or homiletic portions of the Talmud. The non-legal portions of the Talmud are known as Agadita, which literally means kind of like stories. So he has a commentary. It's called Ben Yehoyada. It's written by Rabbeinu Yosef Chaim of Baghdad. For people who know who that is, he's famously known as the Ben Ish Chai. So Rabbeinu Yosef Chaim of Baghdad, also known as the Ben Ish Chai, has a commentary on the Agadita called Ben Yehoyada. In there, he writes that any noun that has, and I didn't check this out, I didn't do a case study to see if this is consistently true, but he makes this claim that nouns that are related to the earth are feminine. And we have this concept spiritually that the heavens are masculine and the earth is feminine. And this idea of sort of like the flow of influence goes from above to below. There's sort of like God is sprinkling down his spiritual energies from the heavens, and they are received by the earth. And so in the relationship between male, female, masculine, feminine, the male represents the contributor of energy or potential, and the female represents the recipient of the energy or potential and its development into the actual. So we have sort of like potential energy coming from the spiritual world into the physical world, and it's developed by the earth, and it comes forth. And that's the masculine feminine relationship. And so therefore, words related to the earth will be feminine, he says, and therefore ear, which means a city, that's something that is attached to the earth, is a feminine noun despite its appearance. Anyway, it's neither here nor there. Let's move on. I didn't have any other comments or questions, so we're going to move on. So we have get up, go to Nineveh, the big city, ukra aleha. Okay, so we start here with the prefix u, which is equivalent to the prefix vav, which we met. It is a vav. That's what it is, which we met in the previous verse. We had vayhi. We said vav prefix means What, for those who've been paying attention, was the vav prefix? Anyone?
And
Vav is and. Get up, go to Nineveh, the big city, and then we have this word kira, which I highlighted yellow to show you these three letters are once again a shoresh, a root. The kuf resh aleph. Shoresh is words relating to what? For those who studied the Quizlet or peeked in the glossary or and have this knowledge from some other source. Anyone want to tell us what kira means? So kira, for those who want to peek in the glossary over here, we have it here at the bottom. And it means, sorry, try to scroll that over. To call or to read could mean both of those, usually to call. But if someone's reading, that verb will also be used. So, so ukra, and call. And call aleha. So what I did for this word is I broke it up into two bits. We have the green portion, which is a vocabulary word that we alluded to earlier, spelled ayin lamed, and it's in the glossary, and it's also in the Quizlet, the vocabulary Quizlet. And then we have the suffix ha, which is different than the suffix we saw before, which is kamatz and then a hey being the last letter and the kamatz vowel being under the previous letter. Here we have the hey at the end with the kamatz underneath it. It is a feminine suffix, but it adds meaning to the word. Other than signifying femininity, it will also add some meaning. So let's start with the green portion. For those who studied the Quizlet or looked at the glossary, what word do we have over here? Anyone?
two.
So we had L is two. Remember, L is
Yeah,
two, but that's
L is
Aleph
two.
Lamed.
Right.
We had over here Aleph Lamed, and we pointed out, we distinguished
Right.
that there's right Ayin Lamed, which is on, or upon, right? And by the way, here is one of those instances where you could substitute L, meaning two, for A. Like I said, sometimes they interchange. It wouldn't distort the meaning of the verse if you put the word two over here either, as we'll see. But we'll translate it more literally and it'll be just fine. And call upon ha suffix. So I like to say that the author of the Bible was a New Yorker, because when he said ha, what he meant was, if you look in the glossary, if you look at our glossary in the new suffixes section, okay, we have ha over here means her, which is how a New Yorker would say her anyway, ha. Or it could mean it, as her if it was a person, and it if it's an object that happens to be a feminine word in Hebrew. So, and here you could use either one. You could honestly use either one in the Hebrew. You could say, and call upon it being the city. Get up, go to Nineveh, the big city, and call upon it, or call upon her, because often cities are called femininely. Call upon her, call upon the city. And now he doesn't yet say what the calling is, but Hashem will now identify why the calling is. And so hence we have the next word, which is ki. Now, before we go on to the next line, maybe I'll pause for questions. Any questions or comments here?
Yeah.
Sandy, welcome.
Hi.
Yeah, I was just wondering, because now that we know that God wants him to do something, instead of saying call, wouldn't it be more appropriate to say warn? Would warn be a better word?
That is a good question. Maybe based on the context, it's sort of understood that this calling is a warning. Why was the specific word warn not used? I don't have a ready answer for that. At the same time, I don't feel that call is an inappropriate word to use over here.
Sure.
So I'm not so troubled by that. But that's a good question. Why call rather than warn? The calling is a warning, so maybe we don't need to be troubled by that. Sorry, I don't have a more satisfying answer. Any other questions or comments before we go to the next line?
Yeah, I was just going to mention that, this phrase is interesting. It's really idiomatic, in my opinion. It's like when you say ukra alea, it's almost like you're saying it's used in situations where a person has, I guess, they have the task of prophesying against the city, or of, there's a very interesting connotation to saying kra aleha, as opposed to, to tell them, or to, more, it feels like it's like go and I like the use of the word warn, because it's more like, and it's almost like testify against it, like speak, send this message of great import to them. And I'm struggling for the right word, but it's idiomatic. I mean, you're going to get a prophet being asked to do this, right? Somebody, when you call like this on a city, there's a weight to that phrase that normally isn't felt in the normal way this might be said. Anyway,
yeah,
I don't know if that's actually true, but,
I think you're right. I think there is a very great significance to this calling, and I'll tell you where it comes to me. I'll use Jacob's trick. I'm going to share another tab. Okay, so right now you should be able to see. I have a tab open on Safari to Vayikra, the book of Vayikra, famously Leviticus. Of course, we call it Vayikra because the first word in the book of Leviticus is Vayikra. And Vayikra means, and he called. Vayikra el Moshe. And he called to Moses. And he called him by Daber Hashem Elav, and Hashem spoke to him. But it rather than begin with, and Hashem spoke to Moses, it's, and he called to Moshe. And there's a very deep meaning to that. In fact, we find, if you could see here, that the Aleph in Vayikra is written small. In every Torah scroll, or where did my commentaries go? In every Torah scroll, the Aleph is written small. And our understanding of that is that Moshe did not want to write the Aleph large because of what Rashi says over here in his commentary. L'chol dibros, l'chol amiros, l'chol tzivuyim kodma kriya. He says there was a kriya, there was a calling which preceded all the dibros, all the speaking, ulachol amiros, and all the saying, ulachol tzivuyim, and all the commanding. God speaks in different ways, as we spoke about last week. We had in verse 1 two verbs. There was the verb of the word of God, daber, davar, and speaking, and then we had lemor, saying. So first says Rashi, there's like different stages of communication. There's one that's called a dibur, which is a speaking. I'm just translating it literally, but deeper what that means, as I said last week, you'll have to go back to my Shir Hashirim series, class number 19 or 20, when I discussed this distinction. And maybe that we highlight this passage as well. Over there's amira, there's saying, there's tzivui, which is commanding. But Rashi says prior to any of these communications, first comes a kriya, a calling. And what is that? Rashi says lashon chiba. This is a term of affection. Lashon shemalache hasharis mishtamshim bo. This is a language that the ministering angels use. Shenemar, as it says in the book of Isaiah, chapter 6, vikara zeh al zeh, that the angels called to one another. Kara zeh al zeh, they called to one another. So Vayikra al Moshe, he called to Moshe. This is a word that connotes a certain degree of closeness, a certain degree of intimacy. My Rebbe, Rabbi Wallerstein of blessed memory, he used to talk about the idea. He would speak on Parshas Vayikra, on this portion of the week of Vayikra. He would talk about the importance of calling people by their names, of developing a personal relationship with someone, and not just "Hey you," or just talking to the room. You have to reach each individual and speak to each individual and learn people's names and say hello and shalom aleichem to each person by name. Let them hear their name come from you, because it develops a closeness and an intimacy and an affection and a relationship. He said we learned that from the way that God spoke to Moses. So Moshe did not want to reveal this intimacy. Rashi tells us he did not want to reveal this intimacy by writing in the Torah that God called to him, which Rashi says really preceded every speaking of God, although we don't find it mentioned every time. We find it this one time, and Moshe didn't want to write it because he felt it was immodest to reveal such an intimate character of his relationship with Hashem. And so he wanted to write the word Vayiker without the aleph, because Vayiker is from the shorish kara, which means to happen. It means happenstance, not kara with an aleph, like we just learned to call, but kara with a hey, which means to happen. And Vayiker would mean that God happened to communicate with Moshe, like, oh, you're here? Well, if you're here, I'll talk to you because you happen to be here. It doesn't indicate that there was an intentionality, that there was any special relationship between God and Moshe. So he wanted to write it that way. And God said, no, you must write the word Vayikra. And so Moshe said, at least could I diminish the aleph, to sort of take away some of the prominence of that, which I feel is so private. And God gave him permission to diminish the aleph. And there's a lot more to say on that. And now is not the time. But just going there, in other words, Cliff, to your point, that Vayikra, it's a very direct, very personal kind of communication. And if we translate that over here, which I didn't think of, and maybe thank you, Stephen, for bringing up the question, God is directing Jonah, maybe not to just scream and shout from the hilltops or whatever, but actually to try and reach people, to try to communicate with individuals, to try to build relationships and influence by showing care, by showing concern, by showing a certain degree of affection of like, I'm not out to get you. I care about you, every single one of you, you and you and you. And that was his mission, to go to Nineveh, to call out to her with a degree of affection and intimacy that would be an effective message. And in fact, we find that his message is effective. But why not? Because he didn't scream and shout and warn. And I'm not saying he didn't warn, but in other words, just to speak ominously and scare people, right? You're going to hell. Whose blood atones for you, Jew? Whose blood atones for you? That's what I get on street corners in Manhattan. Okay, so that's not what Jonah was doing. Maybe we can infer from here that he was speaking with like Rashi says, the shon chiba. He was speaking affectionately to the people to show them the care and concern that Hashem had for each of them, and that it was that feeling of affection that really created the connection that allowed them to make the changes they needed to make. So I think that's a beautiful idea. Okay, we're running down on time, so I want to get to the end. We have 2 lines to go. Ukra aleha, call upon her. Anyway, I hope that was a satisfactory approach. Let's switch back to the other tab, which I almost didn't do just now. Share this tab. Did I do it? I did it. Okay. Okay, let's go next line. Key. It's in your glossary. It's in your Quizlet. Someone who did his homework or looked in the glossary, who's going to tell me what key means? Because here's why. Because now here we have Olisa Ra'asam. Now I'm pronouncing this was an Ashkenazic pronunciation, and the Sephardic pronunciation alita ra'atam. Alita ra'atam. I could do it more Sephardi if you want. Alita ra'atam. Okay.
You
What
got
is
that ayin in, Rabbi.
alita ra'atam? Okay. So what does that mean? We have a shoresh over here. Now here's a new concept that I want to get in before the end of the hour. We have really like maybe one or two more concepts to get. Is I highlighted these three letters in yellow to show you there's a shoresh here. And yet you'll say, oh, let me find that shoresh. You're going, ayin lamed tough. Okay, I'm going to go into my glossary and I'm going to look for that. Let me see. Glossary. Let me find shoresh ayin lamed tough. Where is it? And I'm going to look and I'm not going to find it. I'll find ayin lamed hey, but I won't find ayin lamed tough. Why is that? And by the way, ayin lamed hey is to ascend or to go up. Why is that? The reason is because of someone speaking.
Oh, I was gonna say is what you said. Is it what you said before? Because it's another variation on feminine.
It is, but why?
Oh, okay, not that.
But yes, and yes, it is. You're not wrong, but why does that occur here? Okay. So what I want to look at is this last note over here. When a suffix is added to a word ending with kamatse, we met that kamatse ending, that feminine ending. When you add an additional suffix at the end of the kamatse, the hey becomes a tough. The hey does not remain a hey when a suffix is added to it. So, so looking at this, aleph, ayin lamed tough, there is a kamatz hey suffix following it. So, what that does is that transforms the hey, that final hey of the shorish ayin lamed hey. It transforms it into a tough. Okay. So what you're looking for when you see this ayin lamed taf, what you're really looking for is ayin lamed hey. And the reason it's a taf is because it's followed by a suffix. So again, looking at the glossary, this is the one we're looking for, ayin lamed hey. The hey transformed into a taf because a suffix was added to it. And it means to ascend or to go up. So something, because alita, something has ascended, risen, gone up. Okay, something has ascended or risen. And what is that something? That something is ra'atam. Ra'atam. So again, we have to break this down to two pieces. I color-coded it to make it easy. Okay. Now, what I just showed you here applies again over here. I have a word. There's three letters that are I might have made a mistake in the glossary here. I'm not sure that I put a shorish resh ayin hey over here, but we'll find it somewhere else in the glossary. That I can tell you. We have a word. It's three letters. The last one is a tough followed by a suffix. So based on the rule I just told you, if I want to sort of reverse engineer and figure out what this word is without the suffix, what would I do to this tough? Anyone?
Go back to a hey.
Put it back to a hey. So the word is ra'ah, okay? And ra'ah, so I actually did not put in the glossary a shoresh ra'ah, and the reason for that is because even ra'ah is based on a more simple word, which is, it's in the glossary, but not in the yellow section. It's in the green section. It's in the green section here. So my color coding was a little off. You'll please excuse me. I did. I put it in the green. I should have highlighted it in green, not yellow. I put it in the green, and here's ra'ah. And ra'ah is evil. Okay. Now you'll say, what's with the blue hey over here? So all this goes back to everything we learned in this lesson. The word ra'ah is a feminine word. It has a kamatz hey suffix to indicate it's a feminine word. It means evil, but it means evil as a noun. Okay, I'm going to tell you something a little bit advanced, might be a little information overload, but I want to be as clear as I could be. Ra'ah is evil as a noun. The noun evil, the thing evil, the thing evil. If I would take away this kamatz hey suffix and I'd be left with just the word ra, okay, not ra'ah, but just ra. Take away the kamatz hey ending. Ra means evil as an adjective, okay? Ra is evil as an adjective. Ra'ah is evil as a noun. So evil. Now, by the way, again, this is very deep and spiritual. People don't understand how spiritual a language Hebrew is. And I explained to you about heaven and earth and why earth nouns are feminine. Again, ra, evil as an adjective, it's sort of like it's like a diminished form of evil. It's just evil as a descriptive. But evil as a thing, as an object, like it's not a physical object, but as something existing, is feminine, because like we said before, masculine represents the energy of potential, feminine represents development into actual. Okay, masculine is potential and feminine is actual. So ra in the masculine is this abstract adjective describing something as evil, but the ra in the feminine is the evil itself. So I'll give you another great example of this, which the Shalah points out. If you know who the Shalah is, great. If not, right, he's a holy person. He writes this in Genesis chapter 13. It talks about the quarrel between the shepherds of Abraham, and the shepherds of Lot. And it says there, Vayhi Riv, and there was a Riv. There was an argument between the shepherds of the flocks of Abraham and the shepherds of the livestock of Lot. And Abraham comes to Lot and he says, Al not tehi miriva beini uvenecha. Let there not be a miriva between me and you. Okay? So first of all, what's miriva? Miriva is from the root riv, the argument. So let there not be an argument between you and I. Wait, first of all, there already is an argument, isn't there? But he riv, there was an argument. So what do you mean let there not be an argument? There already is an argument. That's number one. Number two, why'd you change from the word riv to the word miriva? So riv is masculine and miriva is feminine. And the Shalah says what began in the first verse, Vayhi riv, there was an argument. It was just the seeds of the argument. It was just the potential for strife. There was a potential for conflict that was bubbling up. And Avram said to Lot, let there not be meriva, feminine. Let this not potential become a conflagration and become a much bigger quarrel, strife between me and you. Let's stop it before
maybe give birth to a baby argument.
Oh, exactly. And I think that's even the language that he uses, right? So let it not go beyond the seed to become an actual being that is born into the world of a great strife. So that's one of the deep spiritual meanings between the masculine and the feminine. But in any case, so over here, Ra'ah is evil. And let's go back to our verse over here. It says, Ki alasa ra'asam, because blank evil has ascended or risen. Now, what's the blue blank here? The blue blank here is not this kamatz hey, because that just tells you it's feminine, meaning because, again, and I told you, just like the adjective matches the noun, the verb matches the noun. So ra'ah, which is feminine, alasa, it has come up with a feminine ending to indicate to you that even the verb is matching the noun, which is evil, and it's coming up with a feminine ending because it's a feminine actor. So the action is also feminine. Alasa ra'a, the evil has come up. And so this suffix here, which looks like the sofit mem, the ending letter mem, is what's indicating something about the evil. Now, we'll look in our glossary. Does someone have a comment?
A question, comment?
Yeah.
Just in some of the simple Hebrew games I'm doing, they add a lot of the words have the final M on to the plural, or when something has had an increase of some kind, like something which is what you're talking about. Is that part of why the mem is or is it just simply because it's on the end?
So yes and no. It's not directly related to what you're saying. And if I would try to relate it, it might be confusing. So I'm going to say for now, what you're seeing as the plural with the mem ending is something else. And when we encounter it, we'll discuss it. This is not totally unrelated, but I'd rather address it directly rather than detour to what you're asking about and come back, if that's okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so what I've shown here is that the suffix is kamatz followed by final mem. It's the ending. And ending means there, not and then here's where your English grammar has to come in. There's 3 there's, right? There, and there. There's there, which means over there, the place, THERE. There's there, THEY', which means belonging to them. No, that's they are. It's a contraction, they are. And there's this one, THEIR, which means belonging to them. There, it's there, belonging to them. So that's what this one is. So ra'asam means their evil. The evil that is theirs. Their evil has ascended. Their evil has risen. Get up, go to Nineveh, the big city, and call upon her. Call out to her, right? Because their evil, the evil of, now it's gone from the city singular to them plural. And that's a little bit related to what you were saying, Sandy, but I'm not going to go there. Them, the people of the city, obviously, their evil has ascended, has risen, lifanai. Now, I know we're over time now, so I want to finish this up quickly. Lifanai, again, I'm pointing out here, is a combination of 2 elements, okay? This part, the lifana, that section is, I marked it green, so you could look in the glossary, in the green milim, the green vocabulary words. The most similar word there is this word here, lifnei, and lifnei means before. Now, if we had more time, I could break down the word lifnei even more and show you why it means before. But just for now, we're going to keep it simple. And lifnei means before. Lifnei means before. So with that, we'll put that in the green box here. Before. And I put the blue on the yud here to indicate there's a suffix. So what suffix is that? Back to the glossary. Go to the suffixes. And you'll see I've put there's a suffix which is chirik, the E vowel, chirik yud, E ending, or patach, that's this A vowel here, patach yud, I, E ending, or I ending can mean me or my. And I know Jacob is getting agitated because there's more to say about that, and I'm not being abundantly fully transparent about the more specific meanings of these suffixes, but just to keep it simple for now, among the understandings of the E ending or I ending, chirik yud or patach yud is me or my. So based on context over here, you would say lifa nai. Now you're going to ask another question. Wait, but it's not a patach yud ending. It's kamatz yud. There's a kamatz underneath the nun. I will explain that. For now, just imagine that instead of a kamatz under the nun, there's a patach, which is that horizontal line, and it's not lefanai. Now, in Sephardic Hebrew, it actually doesn't change the pronunciation. This word would be lefanai either way, lefanai. For Ashkenazim, it's lefanai. And there would be a difference if there would be a patach under the nun, it would be lefanai. Slightly different, lefanai, lefanoi. Now, let's imagine for now that it's lefanai, okay? I'll explain why it isn't that. Let's imagine it is. Then this last word in the verse, it would be before what?
Me.
Sorry.
Before me.
Me.
That's right, before me. So the full verse is, get up, go to Nineveh, the big city, the great city, and call upon her. Why? Because their evil has ascended before me. The evil has risen up before me. It's like God. Now, of course, it's speaking kind of metaphorically, like, it's not like it's flying up in the air and God's up there and what's this? But this is a poetic language. God is describing it. The evil is so great that it's risen up to heaven and it's come before me, and I have to respond to it. So fine, that's all fine and dandy. Just to explain why this last bit here has a kamatz under the nun. Again, that's the little T-looking vowel that is for Ashkenazim an ah sound rather than an ah sound. Is because remember I told you last week about construct form. When you have construct form, the vowels get shortened. The vowels get shortened to indicate the construct form. Here you have a phenomenon that at the end of a verse, vowels get elongated at the end of a verse. So if this wasn't the end of a verse, the word would be lefanai, exactly the way that I've described it to you, because the patach, the horizontal line, that's the ah sound, is, again, it's considered a small vowel, like tunua ketana, a small vowel. But because it's the end of the verse, the small vowel gets elongated into a kamatz. The kamatz is the long vowel version of the patach. The patach, the horizontal line ah, is the short version of the kamatz. Okay? So like we had in davar and divar over here. Remember we had divar? So the original of that's this construct form, but the original was davar, kamatz, kamatz. But the kamatz got shortened into a patach, as we said over there. Here, the patach gets elongated into a kamatz. So lefanai becomes lefanai at the end of a verse. Because I know this word is lefanai, and I know that this ending is an I ending, which means me. Conveniently in English, I, like the letter I, is referring to myself. Okay. But that's just I'm just speaking that out to alleviate confusion. I'm teaching you about an I suffix with a patach, and then I show you one with a kamatz. Why does it have a kamatz? Because it's the end of the verse. The vowel gets elongated. Now, just another point, if anyone was wondering about this little vertical line over here, this little vertical line underneath the nun, that is just an emphasis mark. It just tells you where the emphasis in the word is, so that I put the emphasis on that syllable, on that final syllable, lefanai, as opposed to, let's say, putting the emphasis under the fe here, and it'll be lefanai. It's not lefanai, it's lefanai. Okay, that's that's what that vertical line signifies. Here also, Nineveh. Okay, be that as it may, that is our lesson for tonight. We learned several new shorashim. We learned about the masculine, feminine. The adjective always matches the gender and the number of the noun. Likewise, the verb, as we saw over here, will also always match the gender and the number of the noun that's performing the action. The adjective will follow the noun, as we saw over here. The definite article will precede the adjective, even if it does not precede the noun, or even if it does precede the noun, it will always precede the adjective. And we learned a bunch of other things too. It's all in the
Rabbi,
notes. If you made a copy, you have it in your notes. And yeah, I'll take any questions and then we'll call it an evening.
Yeah, I think I've got one. It's a little bit of a comment, I guess. Maybe not for now, and you referred to it a minute ago as being metaphorical, but I find this language really interesting because it reminds me of the story of Cain and Abel, right? Where the blood calls up from the ground, right? Following the murder. And there's this notion in the Tanakh that there's the evidence of the act itself is literally connected to God. Literally that kind of like there's the result or the concept that results from an action or something like that literally presents itself to God, rises before him, speaks, becomes known to him literally as an essential component of its having actually happened. And I wonder, just how elsewhere in the Tanakh, this concept of God being like connected to everything.
Everywhere. It's everywhere. It's ever, as you pointed out, it's with Cain and Abel. You said something so brilliant, and there's so much more to say about it, and you're 100% right. I said it's poetic, but the truth is that our tradition actually takes this language very seriously and literally, to the point that our sources tell us, and the Shla speaks about this, and the Maharsha speaks about this, and I could bring you multiple sources, that every action that a person does not only impact the physical world in which they're acting, but actually creates an equivalent spiritual force that has its own life and its own reality. The terminology that's used is that there is a malach, which we translate as like an angel. There's an angel created for every act. So there's an angel created when we do a positive act, or even say positive words, or even think positive thoughts. There are spiritual beings that are coming into existence from those actions, thoughts, and words, which are described as angels. And these angels, they come into the world and they actually can act positively upon the world. The more positivity we put out into the world, it's actually continuing to act as spiritual positivity that permeates the world. And the same is true the opposite. With our acts of wickedness, we create evil forces, evil spiritual forces that they proceed beyond our being. They go out into the world, and they impact the world negatively. They become negative actors in the world. So like you're saying, the blood calls out, and here we have the evil has risen up. We have also by Sodom, the city of Sodom, the evil, wicked city of Sodom. We have it says the outcry of Sodom also comes up to God, etc. And the Shla points out with the golden calf, even with the golden calf, that not only did Moshe have to destroy the physical golden calf on earth, but he had to, in a certain way, ascend to a spiritual level and destroy the spiritual damage that it did. He points this out in the wording of a verse in Deuteronomy. It's not our subject right now, so I'm not going to go there, but it's very brilliant what he says. So what you're saying is actually deeply rooted in our sources, especially the Kabbalistic sources, that you can read Nefesh HaChaim. The whole first gate of Nefesh HaChaim deals with this subject, that our actions, words, and thoughts have a real impact on the spiritual fabric of the universe. But more than that, like I mentioned before, they are creative of positive or negative spiritual beings that come into existence from our choices, good or evil, and now exist in the world doing what they do. So in a very literal sense, the evil that was produced into reality by the people of Sodom has actually risen up before God as a literal being. So you're 100% correct.
Thank you.
Any more questions or comments? Oh, there are some YouTube comments, as a matter of fact. Let's see. T Bishop, better if there are no contractions in the English. Okay, I'm not going to comment so much about the English language. Someone said when you translate Hebrew into English, you lose 80% of the meaning. You think that's true? I mean, yes, it is true, because Hebrew, the original language of the Torah of the prophets, is very pregnant with meaning. Every word has, in fact, multiple meanings. Maimonides writes quite a lot about this. This is brought down also in the halachic literature, the legal literature, that why it's important to say the prayers in Hebrew, because even if you don't understand the words themselves carry intrinsic meaning, and they have multiple meanings. And if you translate the words into a language, you're only getting one of the multiple meanings. So the example that's brought in the halachic literature is when we say the Shema. Part of the prayer is called the Shema, and within the Shema is the verse Vishinantam levanecha. You have to teach the words of Torah to your children. Vishinantam. So how much do you lose by translating that as, and you will teach it to your sons? So Shinantam, lishanot, means to teach. But it also means, from the word shenayim, meaning two, it means to double something, to do something twice. And that's the idea of teaching and learning and studying, is that it's only done through repetition. You have to, in order to teach and in order to learn, you have to repeat, and you have to repeat, and you have to repeat. And so teaching is done through repetition. Learning is done through repetition, but you lose that nuance and you lose that depth when you just translate it as you shall teach. Furthermore, it says that shinun, shinantam, shinun in Hebrew means sharpening something. So vishinantam levanecha means you should make it sharp for your children. You should sharpen it for your children. What do you mean you should sharpen it? Because you should teach it in such a way that they have the knowledge in a very sharp manner. You make the teaching sharp and stark and clear and well defined. And how do you do that? Through repetition. So all those layers of meaning are just in the word vishinantam. But if I read from a translation, you shall teach this to your sons, I lose that. I lose so many layers when now, by the way, now I'm going a little afield, and again, the class is over, and if people want to leave, they could leave. But now I'll elaborate a little bit because we're past time. So this is a Q&A. There's a teaching. It says that Moshe wrote the Torah in 70 languages. He wrote upon these stone monuments the Torah in 70 languages. It says Bayer Hativ. Bayer Hativ. That's what it's. Bayer Hativ in Hebrew means well elucidated. Moshe wrote the words of the Torah well elucidated. What does it mean they were well elucidated? So our sages say he wrote it in 70 languages. So imagine we have the what is it called? The Rosetta Stone, where you have a stone monument, and on each side of the stone is the same message in different languages. And from the Rosetta Stone, we were able to unlock multiple ancient languages because everything was written. So before there was a Rosetta Stone, our sages told us that Moshe wrote a Rosetta Stone of the Torah in 70 languages. So why do that, right? And not only that, very strange, because there is a story in the Talmud. It's also found in Josephus. This is a well-documented historical event that I think it was Aristeas, or no, it was the letter of Aristeas, but it was a Ptolemy II had a library of books of wisdom in Alexandria in Egypt, and he sent for the Jews to produce for him a copy of the 5 books of Moses in Greek. And so the story goes that he brought 70 sages down. This is where the Septuagint comes from. Septuagint, or Septuagint, means the translation of the 70. He brings down the 70 sages, and he confines each one in a separate room, and he tells all of them separately to write a translation of the Torah into Greek. And it says that they all, by a miracle, they all had the same idea of exactly how to translate it. Because if I would translate, now if I would ask Jacob to translate, and you look at this translate, the Art Scroll translation and Arya Kaplan's translation and the Jewish Publication Society translation, you're going to find variations. Even right, translation as I pointed out to you, words can have multiple meaning. Not only that, but it says that the sages also altered some of the wording in order not to give credence to a misreading of the Torah, which may come out of a very literal reading of it, which is the way the Greek translations were made in those days. It was very direct translations, like word for word translations. If you know anything about the old, I forgot what it's called. What's his name? Jacob, you know this stuff. The guy, not Onkelos, but they say it might have been Onkelos, Aquila. You know about Aquila?
Very little. I've
You seem
vaguely
like the
heard
type
of it.
who know. Aquila is fascinating. So Aquila was a Jew who wrote a Greek translation of something, the Torah, I think, and I forgot what it's called, like the Hexagonographa or some weird name like that.
The Hexapla was somebody else.
So there's something called by Aquila that is the hexa something or other. Anyway, the bottom line is it's like a word for word translation. Like it doesn't even follow Greek sentence syntax. It's just Hebrew word translated in Greek, next Hebrew word. It's very. This was the quintessential quote unquote direct translation. Now we don't translate that way today because it would be very burdensome to read. We translate more in a reader friendly way. So we take a lot of liberties with the language when we do contemporary translations. It seems to me from the story that the Septuagint was more of the Aquila style because the Talmud even says that they changed the order of the words, that it says Bereshit bara Elokim, in the beginning God created, but rather than translate it Bereshit bara Elokim, in the beginning God created, they translated Elokim bara Bereshit, God created in the beginning. They changed the order of the words. Why? So that the Greeks should not come to understand that a deity named Bereshit created God, because it would say Bereshit bara Elokim, literally in the beginning created God. Bereshit, in the beginning, bara created, Elokim, God. So if you would translate it directly, it looks like Bereshit created God. Now, that would only happen if you were translating the words one by one, the way the ancient Greeks used to do it. So if you know something about Greek translation, you understand that makes total 100% perfect sense. If you don't understand, then that story in the Gemara makes no sense. But be that as it may, they brought the 70 sages down. They all had the exact same idea of how to translate it, including the changes that they made in order to not give the Greeks the ability to draw heretical conclusions from the wording of the Torah. So they produced this translation and said it was a miracle. Now the joke goes that it wasn't a miracle that they produced 70 sages in separate rooms produced the same translation. If they would have been in the same room and agreed all on the same translation, then they would have that would have been a miracle. Oh, hold on, I have to take a call, but I'm in the middle of an answer. So if you want to hear the answers, hey. Oh, I missed the call. Let me hurry up this answer. So, oh, the call's coming in. Hang on, let me take. I'll be right back.
While the rabbi's not here, we can party now.
Now, this is a party.
Quick, somebody put a whoopee cushion on the rabbi's seat.
I heard that, Jacob. Anyway, sorry. My wife needed the car keys. She has to go pick up my daughter from the airport, and she was waiting for me to finish the class, and I'm overtime. So now I messed up that whole schedule. So where was I going with this? So there was a Septuagint, right? And it says that when they produced this translation, 3 days of darkness descended upon the world, whatever that means. But the idea is that to translate the Torah into a foreign language was considered a very bad thing. So when they translated the Torah to Greek, 3 days of darkness descended upon the world. And by the way, darkness represents a lack of knowledge. So wouldn't it be more knowledge if you translate the Torah into Greek? So now you've made the Torah available for more people. So isn't that more knowledge? Isn't that light in the world? Why is it darkness? So here's why. Because of exactly what this person asked, Q-Berts, right? When you translate into a language, you lost the majority of the meaning of the Torah. You lost it. So what you did is diminish the Torah. You robbed the Torah of its profundity when you do that. Oh, if that's true, so why did Moshe translate into 70 languages? So this is my answer. I never heard an answer to this question, but this was my surmise. This is where I was going with this, is that every translation was different. Every translation was different. Not just it was in a different language, but Moshe, like we say, Shivim Panim La Torah, there's 70 faces, 70 facets to the Torah, so to speak. There's like a multiplicity of ways to understand the Torah, but Moshe was able to translate in each language differently than one another and bring out another layer of meaning, so that if you would read all the stones, you would find that this Torah has such profundity that it could teach this and simultaneously teach this and simultaneously teach that, all with the same words. Like I gave the example before of vishinantam, teaching, but repetition and sharpening, how it's all found in one word. That's an example given in the halachic literature why it's preferable to say the prayers in Hebrew rather than in a translation. And in Hebrew, even if you don't understand it, but if you say it in a translation and you don't understand the language you are saying, then you've done nothing at all. You've said zero. You haven't said a thing. You could say it in translation you understand, you've said one layer of meaning. You could say it in Hebrew, which is intrinsically meaningful, even if you don't understand it, and you've said a lot. But if you say it in a language other than Hebrew without understanding, you've said nothing at all. So that is the reality, that translations do diminish the Holy Tongue to a shadow of its depth and profundity. And like I said, I think that is the understanding of why Moshe translating to 70 languages was something that he was enjoined to do, while when the sages translated, 70 sages translated into one language, that diminished the Torah and was considered bringing a very great darkness to the world. So that's my answer to that question. And now I gotta go.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Have a good night.